Hi, I'm Sam, Flying Kite, and this is the horror show. It's week 32, and we're starting a new franchise, the Halloween franchise. Starting off with 1978's Halloween. It's about an hour and a half long. It's rated R, of course. It's directed by John Carpenter. John Carpenter also did the music. Jamie Lee Curtis plays Laurie, the main girl in the movie. Donald Pleasance plays Dr. Loomis, and Nick Castle plays Michael Myers. There's a few other actors and such in the movie, but those were the big ones. The ones that everyone knows and remembers from the movie. Now, to get it out of the way, I really like this movie. It's a really good movie. But I gotta be honest about the movie. There's a lot of things I like about it, and the things that are problematic with the movie aren't really, the worst thing ever. Like, I don't know, for example, the cliches and whatnot that you see in this movie, they're not the worst, thing ever, but it does make the storyline confusing if you only view this movie in the lens of this is the only Halloween movie. Right, no sequels, no more answers to the questions that you have, this is it. Right? But in that same time, it's, it's one of those movies that made it possible for for the 80s to get huge, right? And so there's a lot of good that came from this movie, even the franchise. But let's get into it. IMDb has this movie as a 7.7 out of 10. About 326,000 people voted. So let's get into it. My voting. My rating. I say the story is a 3 out of 5. It's a fine story, and I can, kind of give you the, not summary of it, but basically the first half of the movie. It's 1968, something like that. No, 58. It's 1958. And young Michael Myers, for no seeming reason other than maybe he's just crazy, he's like 6 years old too, he's a kid, kills his sister. 15 years later, he breaks out and goes back home, where he ends up following and, stalking these babysitters. So that's like the kind of sum up of the movie. You could go a little more deeper in like Laurie's kind of story in this movie. Not that she's like, schizophrenic or whatever, but like she sees Michael here and there. Say it's behind a bush, and when she goes around the corner to see if he's there, boom, he's not there. Or she looks out her window and sees Michael by the curtains, but then like a moment later just vanishes. And then later that night, when she's babysitting, say like Tommy, and Tommy's like, "Look, the boogeyman's outside." And she looks out and then boom, he's not there, but he saw him. But he just sees a random guy standing out there. He doesn't know it's Michael. He doesn't know what Michael is. But, but I guess my big problem with the story is just the lens of only this movie. It doesn't really make much sense why Michael is going after the babysitters, or I guess, at the end of the movie, going after Laurie. The second movie explains it a bit better, but at least in my opinion, it doesn't really make that much sense. It's like I get it, but I would say that Halloween 6 answers it probably the best. And honestly, I really like that movie, or at the very least, I really like the director's cut of that movie. The theatrical cut is whatever. But, just looking at this movie as just this movie, it's very problematic storyline-wise. Unless you want to just, he's just chasing them for funsies. Which you could, I suppose. But I like to kind of view Michael as someone who, there's always a reason, but you'll just never know. Because if the only reason I would go and be like, there's no reason to it, it's just mindless and whatnot. See, that's kind of like Jason. Jason's mindless. The new Halloween trilogy kind of made him a bit more mindless, in which I kind of liked it, in the sense of they made him in the new trilogy, you know, the latest installments, the last 3 movies, the idea that he would kind of go house to house and, you know, he'd become the ghost of Haddonfield, kind of whatnot, but they never really went that far. The closest you got was just the first 2 movies, and the third one kind of just went in a complete different direction. But, it's just, you know, here's an idea, and they kind of tap into it, but not really. So I guess going back to Michael, there's always a reason. So in this movie, you know, just, you know, face value, it's just probably when he's younger, his sister's supposed to be babysitting him. Or, you know, maybe she was supposed to, but, you know, didn't really want to because, you know, boyfriend was there. And, you know, maybe he also had some other problems going on in life, which, you know, as I kind of said, 6 kind of answers it a lot more better, at least the supernatural aspect. If you want a more realistic, you know, explanation, just watch Rob Zombie's movie, the first one anyway. There's your, like, a legit good explanation why, you know, getting raised in a broken household would make it really easy to kind of start tapping into the whole killing things. I guess kind of thinking back, no, there's still reason for that. Anyway, the music's a 5 out of 5. I love the music. John Carpenter makes great music, at least in my opinion. Sometimes I kind of like his music more than his movies, but, anyway. It's just really good stuff, and really iconic, too. You're just not gonna forget about it. You'll always remember it, and every time you hear it, you're like, oh yeah, that's from Halloween. Unless you're a casual, and then I guess maybe you won't quite remember. The characters are a 4 out of 5. It honestly could be 3, but I would say that Laurie's character and Dr. Loomis's character really carry this movie, in which, honestly, the script was probably 90% them, and then the other 10% are just side characters, or, you know, the girls that end up, oh, spoiler alert, get killed off because it's a slasher movie from the 70s, almost 80s, in which case, like, literally everyone's gonna die, except for the final girl. Kind of think about it. Loomis's character is, you know, I like it, but I could see how someone might be like, oh, he seems really overbearing, but, like, that's kind of the point, because, you know, in his opinion, Michael Myers is this great evil that, you know, if unleashed, is gonna cause a lot of chaos and havoc and whatnot, in which case, that's kind of what happens. But, I don't know, there's kind of this feeling I get with him, that, you know, oh, he's like, son, no parties while I'm gone to, DC. He's like, fine, Dad. Dude, like this. Oh my gosh. But yeah, I mean, if Loomis and, Laurie's if their characters were like, you know, if their storylines were just like a little more less, then the characters would be a lot more easier to be at 3, because everyone else is cliche or stereotype or brainless. The setting's a 4.5 out of 5 for me. I really like it. It's fitting. You know, it's Halloween time. It's, you know, there's the leaves, and, you know, there's the trees, the orange, and the pumpkins, and then Michael Myers. It's just really fitting. Like, honestly, like, I'm gonna skip ahead a bit. The effects and the atmosphere is a 5 out of 5 for me. It's just all so, like, all of it fitting together is just perfect. With the only thing really dampering it is the story. But if you just get past that, then, like, this is a great fine movie. In which case, I mean, I don't see why it couldn't be hard to get past that. It's really easy to get past it, especially if you know, why for, with the second movie, and then the sixth movie, they answer it a lot better. But not to go and just be like, oh, skip the other movies and get there, follow me as I go down this franchise and whatnot, But on a separate note, on, like, my rating, I loved the ending for this movie. And you know what? I'm gonna say it. Spoiler alert. If you haven't seen this movie before, go watch it. And get back to me. Because the ending, it's basically a Ring Around the Rosie with Michael and Laurie. The kids run out of the house. Dr. Loomis, he's walking through the streets, and then he hears them, and then he goes and basically saves Laurie last second and shoots Michael a bunch of times out of a window. And after he, calms Laurie a bit, he looks outside to look on the ground where Michael's supposed to be, and I think he sees him for a second, but then the next time he looks, he's not there, and then the music starts playing, and then the credits start rolling, and that's so great. Oh, where'd he go? But honestly, I'm kind of thinking right now, there's a lot of endings for the Halloween movies that are if it was just a little bit longer, in the sense of say, for example, in the beginning of the second one, because it's the same night, the first and second movie take place in the same night. The second one starts with Loomis on the ground. He goes to the ground where Michael's supposed to be, and then he goes and looks around, and then has a really short conversation with someone. If that was the ending of the first one, probably 10 times better. But I mean, it's still a really good ending, in my opinion. The ending of Halloween 2018, if that ending was the first 5 minutes of the next one, it literally would have been that probably is my favorite Halloween movie kind of thing. But just because they did that, it makes me so upset, because I gotta start talking about a movie that I'm gonna review in a couple of months. But we know it's gonna be a trilogy. Why are you ending the first one as if it's its own thing? Whatever. But anyway, let's get to the IMDb reviews. Oh, so ultimately, I rate this movie as a 4.2 out of 5. It's really good stuff, and you should watch it. The ones out of 10, I'm sorry, ... A relic. You will get dumber watching this dumb movie. So, you're gonna, you would get dumber watching... I guess... No, my bad. Okay. What would make you get dumber? Watching this movie or watching SpongeBob? And as you just show, insert picture of SpongeBob doing... or whatever. I think it's an easy answer. 5 out of 10. Oh my gosh. Inexplicably overrated. I gotta go back to English class. It may be the first, doesn't mean it's good. The most overrated horror film ever. And then someone said, this was actually interesting. Actually, the worst John Carpenter movie. Or the worst of his movies. And I thought that was really interesting, because, people would go and have this movie as a 10 out of 10, I'm about to say, but I guess I'm just thinking, other movies that he's made, what are some movies I think Halloween's better than? I think Halloween is better than Assault on Precinct 13. I think it's better than Big Trouble in Little China. Although I personally probably love Big Trouble in Little China more, but not because it's a serious movie or not because it's it's trying to be. It's just, I don't know. It's a casual, fun, comfort food movie to watch. Halloween, it can be, I guess, but I don't know. I think like Halloween is a more structured and more sound and like ultimately a better movie. But anyway. But like, then I kind of like, actually, that's a really interesting take, because you could say it's better than a few other ones, but for me, for example, I cannot say that Halloween is better than The Fog. I can't say it's better than The Thing. I guess I technically can't say it's better than Big Trouble in Little China. There's a couple more movies, some of which I haven't seen, and others that are like, you probably shouldn't really count it because that was like, say, a college movie he made and not like an actual movie. But anyway, 10 out of 10. The Manifestation of Fear, the absolute finest and greatest slasher ever made. So it's like, if you go into it really open-minded and not really questioning the movie, this is probably a 5 out of 5, honestly. And honestly, I mean, a 4.2 is not bad. It's still really good. It's like 80s, 90s kind of thing, kind of grade. Still passing. But it's just, if you just, guys going after babysitters, and I guess the only reason in the movie why would be because they were kind of mean to him. But that also doesn't really make much sense, because the first girl that that Michael sees is Lori. And so you could go and presume that Michael is basically stalking her the whole time while going after her friends, and then her last. But like, yeah, I guess next week when I talk about 2, I'm going to talk about how, it's an interesting detail that's added to the story, but how does it make more sense? I'd have to go and rewatch the second one because of, the things that they add to be like, hey. Anyway, yeah. I'm Sam, Flying Kites, week 32 of the horror show. We did Halloween this time, and, I think you should watch it. He thinks so too. But anyways, I'll see y'all next week. Bye.